Welcome back to the Journey, a podcast where all walks of life intersect and lead to the kingdom. On today, let's just jump right on in.
Right. Here's the thing, because at first, like, I was homeless, crying in my car. Jesus, please. And when he finally blessed me, I didn't even want to say that. I didn't want. Nobody made the whole Jesus. I was like, I didn't even say, how dare you sit up in here? How dare you?
I want to go off of you said God did it and we were just afraid of posting or your testimony or telling anyone. Are we? How do I word this question? Because I'm trying to figure out, is it us being too humble or is it embarrassment of the past? Because I think, are we confusing I'm humble or am I embarrassed about my past?
I think it can be a combination of both. And although we say that we're not living for the people, we're not trying to please people, there's still, I know for me, sometimes I still deal with shame, guilt, and I don't want people to see me as quit the fight, quit the shoot. I don't want people to see that. And I think why is because I know that old person. I like to say she's buried, but then I really sometimes feel like she's just dormant. Is it dead or is it dormant? Remember when you got that word? Because, and I say this because when it comes to my children, I can go with missionary where they at, and it don't take much when it comes to my baby. So it's just like, but it was also a lesson for me. You thought she was there, because you was ready to have me. You still got love to do.
But that doesn't disqualify you.
It doesn't disqualify you.
And I think the enemy does a good job of using situations like this to make us feel as if, because everything from the old man is not completely dead, that I don't qualify to do what God has called me to do. And yet and still, God used you on that altar today.
He did. And you know what? I'm glad you mentioned that. It was like a tug of war. And I say that because the devil already know. He stayed on his job. He stayed on his job. But he didn't want me to really get into the flow. He didn't. Because when God's presence and the true part about it, like I said, I have my prayer. And even in my prayer, I kept having to bind the enemy up. And even when I got to church, it was like he kept snugging. And that's why I try to remember to shut him down immediately, because if I don't, he just keep And so once I just was able to just keep, okay, God, that's when I start feeling the presence of the Lord. But even though I felt the presence of the Lord, I still was first lady hurt. When she got I was like, oh my God. She hit home on so many different levels today for me. And then I started not to go because you was just about to do whoop, whoop, whoop. If I was you, I wouldn't go up there trying to help nobody. You need to help yourself. And I almost didn't go. And then the Lord told me to go. And so when I went, even though God told me to go, because you had went right to the guy, I was gonna say, oh, let me switch with me to you. But Mama Paula, you switched with her, so I was like, oh God. And I started praying, God, help me, Lord God, give me what your people need, because I don't know what they need. You to pray for God. And It kind of is like,
But that's the part of the qualification. Is when we're qualified, it's not of our own doing. It's nothing that we can do to qualify us. And that's the irony to it all. But that's the dangerous to it all, which causes the enemy to be scared. Because you thought, or he was trying to place thoughts, that because you were qualified, you had to go. You couldn't stay in your seat and feel bad for what you had experienced earlier this week or how you reacted. Because when you're qualified, you have to go. You have to go. Either you go willingly or you go by force. But you have to go. You have to go. There's no way around it. You have to. That's like when our gifts are in operation. Our O said, meet me in logistics. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't want to do hand-to-hand combat.
No, battlefield.
But you have to. When you're called, you have to. And I think that's the part that as people of God, whether it's a new convert or it's a seasoned saint, we have to get that in our minds that when God has called us, we have to go. You don't get to sit down and have a pity party. You don't get to run. I mean, you can try to, but you don't get to run because you've been called. And we owe it to God because he called us. Hold on, sister. We owe it because when he spared our life from that car accident that we didn't even know about, but he spared it, we owe him that. Yes, we give praise and worship. Yes, we owe you praise. Do all praise and worship unto you, oh God. But when you bring it back home, how you kept me when that robbery was getting ready to take place, you had me go to this store instead of that store, and I didn't even know. We owe it to him because he's the one that did it. So, yes, when you're qualified, you have to go. Not just because you're qualified, but because you owe him. They go hand in hand. And so you did what you was called to do.
What about when you say yes, though? Because you said yes, but you don't know what you say yes to.
You don't, but even when you say yes,
but you say yes because they all
trust.
You say yes, you're saying yes. So that's
you
what
are
I
an
said.
evangelist. Don't even do it. Don't even do it. Don't.
You have to go because you said yes.
You don't have to go. You don't have to go because you said yes. You don't have to.
Can y'all remind you that you said yes?
That you said yes.
But even when we're in our stubbornness, I can speak from prior experiences of saying yes, and then I say no.
Yeah.
Yes, when I was in the moment.
But no.
But no, I'm not
already
going.
said it.
But no, I'm not going. I did say yes to the call. But no, I'm not going. Jonah said yes too.
I think
And
the
he tried
no
to
pushes you up.
But yeah,
But the no pushes you back to yes.
The no pushes you back.
Because of the
that's what
storm.
Because of the storm.
Because of the storm.
And I think for me, just being completely honest, I'm at a place where I'm like, Jesus, I don't want no more storms. I don't want no financial issues. I don't want no health issues. I'm tired of whoopings. Like, God, I get what you're trying to tell me. But something that came up earlier was the control. And for me, control is safety. Because if I can control it, if I know what the outcome is going to be, you know, if I can control it, I know what the outcome's going to be. I know how it's going to work out. But no, Arrested, you're not God. You don't know how everything's going to work out. But God, in his infinite wisdom, you say yes, and you're trusting him. And he's like, relax. And First Lady, she got me when she said, I got you, because God is always telling me, I got you. And I just be like, okay, Lord. And I'm like, okay, Lord. But I'm like, I'm going the other way. Okay, Lord.
Direction. I'm smart God.
Right. But it's like, no, he literally has me. And I think for me, part of this surrenderance and saying yes to God and actually making the decision to let my yes be a yes is, okay, God, you are God. I'm your daughter. you're not going to lead me anywhere to where you're not going to be with me. Like, you're not going to disappoint me like people have disappointed me.
I just got to say this. R&R. When you were speaking, I could hear resist the devil. When you were speaking, I could hear resilience. And so in my mind, because now I'm spinning. Okay, resist the devil. Okay, so whatever Satan say to me, no, I gotta resist that. The resilience is gonna come as I continue to follow God and do His will. And it took me back to because I needed First Lady to pray for me today. When I finished working the altar, I went to her, and when she was saying trust, and I do trust God, but if I don't trust Him enough to step out on that faith and utilize the power that He has placed in me,
no, go ahead. I'm with you.
And it's like, I literally the other day, I didn't want to fight because that's what God was telling me. It's not like you think it is, but you fight. If you think it's that, then fight. I don't want to fight. I want to fight this way, the way that I know I'm going to win. But hello, who daughter are you? Who do you belong to? What do you mean the way you know you're going to win? You're going to win this way. This is a spiritual battle. It's when you know what you have to do. And I say that because God has a way of doing things. But it's all confirmation of what God told me Himself. So when First Lady was talking about the whisper of God, it's just like, I heard Him, but I didn't adhere. So what did I do with what you said? Yeah, I heard you, and I did that for a few minutes. And then what happened? What happened? Did I get out in my flesh? Did I get in my feelings, my emotions? Did I just allow what the enemy said just to reign supreme over your word? Like what?
So going back, to something you said earlier, and tying into what Lisa just said is just speaking to yourself and reminding yourself, and I've had to do this, even today, like she was saying, how I switched with Mama P, and I was like, you want me to pray? Like, okay, because I'm used to being in a certain position, but I know what God has called me to. And it's like, God can't exercise that gift in me if I don't allow Him to. So even at being at the altar, it was like, okay, it's the Spirit of the Lord praying through you. It's allowing God to use you. And again, for me to not overthink a moment, it's just like, just flow in God. But outside of just being, okay, at the altar, just reminding myself, God, you got me. Okay, thinking about everything that God is calling me to do in this season, like major moves that's getting ready to happen, things He's told me to do. And I'm like, the clock is coming down to D-Day, and I'm just like, okay, God, so how is this going to work after I be obedient? Like, I'm ready, but then it's like, okay, I can't be hesitant. But you got me, like, you're qualifying me for this next level. Jesus, okay, that conversation sometimes is all over the place, but it's always coming back to, okay, Father, I trust you. You got me. And that relationship is necessary. Like, we have to build that solid foundation with God in order to realize that, yes, He in fact has qualified us. Like, sometimes I wonder, how can Amber still be running? I know,
Right.
like sometimes I just wonder, because I was like, even when we were preparing to start the podcast and just feeling the power and the heat that's coming off of both of their hands, both of them, okay? It's like, how could she still be running? But then it's like, look introvertly, like,
Look at yourself. I'm messing with you.
how could you still be running?
Housewife.
Hmm?
Housewife.
How could you still be running? And yeah, It's that speaking to self. D, you've been quiet for the most part. Go ahead and shoot over.
I'm running. Quiet people run. What do you mean? Because I'm just soaking in all of the wisdom that's around me. I just truly do.
That's something she would say.
Yes. I'm looking like wisdom.
I truly do appreciate all the wisdom that I'm hearing.
Wow, she's
around right, I'm just getting poured into. Like I'm just feasting off of this meal that's around me. It's a blessing. Amen. I love this. God
now
bless
pour
you.
back into the people.
God bless you all. Like what a privilege it is to be here. Right? What an honor. But no, I think because as I'm listening to you all, for real, as I'm listening to you all, it's like it's my personal story. I asked that question before of the embarrassment of the embarrassment of the humble. And then you gave us just a little bit of both. I'm gonna say that mine is probably 75% embarrassment. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm not humble. I am. But I'm quiet because of the embarrassment.
Come on.
Because I don't need you to know my story.
Yeah.
It's one of those, I don't need you to know. I don't want you to know, and I don't need you to know.
Double.
Like both. So for me, that's why I'm like, no. Because I feel like the conversation then comes for church people. People of the world, when I say of the world, I do mean not in church, like save. They know about the Lord. They know Jesus exists. They know that, but they not like in. Right. They may only read the Bible when the pastor say open the Bible. I'm just being real. But I feel like in the church, people say, you got so much power. Tell me your story. I'm running. Cause no, what you know my story for?
I was just thinking that, like, who would
but
do that?
That's what I was getting. That's the thing. That's what I was getting. I was like, I'm not praying for anybody because then
they don't use those exact words, but
right. That's how they do. That's what they do. They're fishing, and I'm like, let me run. Let me walk. Well, I see something all over you. I see the Lord all over you. Where you from? It's like. Not here. Praise the Lord. I'm at the door. So I feel like that's my thing. I just don't, not that I don't want to share, I just don't, it's the trust. Yeah. I don't trust everybody. My quote once was trust no one. But I had to let that go because the Lord had to deal with me on some things. Because I went to work saying it. And HR don't like that. I had to let it go. But for real, it's not that I have trust issues. I have trust concerns. Because I don't know what you're going to do with my story. I don't want you to mishear. I don't want you to hear something wrong with my story.
But then, look at it another way, though.
Right.
But that's only looking at it on one side, right? You're looking at it, you guys are agreeing at the one side of it.
Right. What's the other side?
That the person might need.
Right.
To hear your story.
That's my.
But you have to be vulnerable enough to share it for you to find out who needs it.
Right.
I know. I'm sorry.
I think that's the point she was trying to make. Of my trust.
Right.
You saw.
I was kind of,
right.
She was easing into
You were trying to.
You know what I'm saying?
Are
you a runner or you are a yes Lord all the way, all day, every day?
10 toes down, or you 5.
I'm just here with y'all.
1 foot in.
Ooh.
What does that mean?
I mean, I'll back up.
Wait a minute.
No.
Wait.
Anyway,
this is not glad it's not
wait. So that means all y'all glad?
Come for it. We all glad.
We know it. Wasn't he a pimp?
Right.
A pimp.
I said
a pimp or a pimp.
PIP.
Hold it down. You know what?
We have too much fun thinking over it.
Go ahead.
I
was helping me. Free me up.
Free me up.
See, you should have let us sit.
I was just listening. What you were saying, Precious, and you said, I mean, you make a good point. When you ask the question, if she doesn't tell her story, then how that person gonna know?
Not that person, just
anybody. Put it up that. How are they gonna know? Because what she have gone through. What one person I've gone through is really to help someone else.
I agree, but the thing is, I just don't. If you have somebody like asking you, now you done messed up, and the reason I feel like you done messed up because you should allow that person to be comfortable enough to open up to you. Don't question, don't ask them because now you being nosy. Now you out of line, you out of order. And I know somebody asks me something, whether they direct or indirect, they're not getting nothing. That's like a pushback.
So in a sense of,
you know what I'm saying?
But in a sense of people like, man, they see me. So I'm looking at it different. There's people that see me and they knew where I was at. They see, they know, they might know like a certain extent. They was like, they might genuinely, because now they see God though. They see something changed.
Okay, that's different.
Right, that's different.
There's a
That's
time.
different.
No,
There's an appointed time for them to know that. Like they might want to know it. I'm gonna let you.
that's what I was saying about me not sharing or saying anything. But the good thing is God still was working on my behalf because no matter what, he was still changing me. I ended up not having to tell that part, but they see a totally different me, right? They can see me. Like he's like, this was spoken to me. You're gonna go through in the dark, right? But I'm gonna bless you in public. This is something that you're going to go through the dark, about crying, going through all this stuff that nobody's seen that part. If they're going to see me, bless you though. They're going to see the change in you. So for me, that was kind of how my story was or whatever. And the enemy, such a hater, he doesn't want to see nothing of God. But I pray over like my family and my nieces, and I have one with stories that probably you might have one for one of them, and you got one for one of them, and but I have 16 people at church today. 14 people at church today.
Look at you evangelizing.
My niece called me at 6:00 in the morning. I was gonna call y'all, but I had a little respect.
I was already.
It was like 5. It was like 5.
That's different.
And she called me crying and crying. She called me in this panic, and I had never experienced this, right? And I wouldn't have thought this would have been me. God, they don't believe me. God is talking to me. God is talking to me. They won't believe. I gotta call my dad. Hung up. Got her dad, got her sister, got me on the phone crying this morning. God is talking to me. God, y'all gotta get right. You gotta change. I'm ready to change. Pouring out. God was, you know how they say, I don't know. So everybody got stories different, but God like will whoop somebody. Like he was tearing her head up for hours. And I was like, I'm crying and praying. So I started praying. She had a crying. I said, you gotta come to church today. Gotta come and let me finish the work. Gotta come and let me finish the work with you. My niece, so much stuff was going on this morning. I was like, Nair, you have to drive this car. Put us all in the car. Keys were missing. 30 minutes. Niece going, raggedy kids going off, everything. I said, I'll make 2 trips. I'm gonna leave and go first. Look down, shirt, keys is in Nair's bag. Because I was like, we'll make 2 trips. Oh, y'all going? We're not gonna not go. After all this, you think it's gonna be like, here was a good excuse to not go.
Right.
Oh, you lost the keys. Oh, my baby's is doing. It's all right. You ain't got no clothes. It's all right. Nobody cares about that. We ain't even looking at that. You have a need. So both twins, and I'm grateful for that because both twins and First Lady been praying for their father. This is the brother. But so they all came to church, and the enemy tried to stop them, but you did pray for one of my nieces, and I appreciate that. So with your story, and when you were not going to come, and what you were not going to do, it was necessary for me to make up It was necessary because you prayed for one of my nieces, and the other niece to your mother. But I'm grateful for that. The enemy trying to block and stop things, and her calling me though is where I'm getting to. She called me. Out of everybody else, family could have called some, I don't know, people, hotline, I don't know. And she called me. And I'm like, God, what? Pray.
Still light.
And so I just, that's why I don't want to go
To go back to part of the statement that was made, I believe, like I had touched on just a tiny bit, sorry for interrupting you, Precious, but I believe that God allows for our story to be told when it's time. I'm a firm believer in that. And it doesn't have to be at the church. It doesn't have to be at a school. It could be wherever the person is that you're assigned to, you meet them there and you talk to them. A lot of the times people they see the glory, but no, they don't know the story. And if they did know the story, they wouldn't be able to handle it. That's just my personal. Because and I say they wouldn't be able to handle it in the sense that, you know how we do. Girl, I wouldn't take that. Girl, I wouldn't have dealt with that. Oh no, they can't. They wouldn't have been able to handle it. So oftentimes, what I'll say when it's not time for me to share, I would say keep me in prayer. But I know that God is able. Or if they're going through, I'll say, unless God leads me to share certain things, I'll say He's able. There was a young lady that I was able to speak with most recently. And I just asked her, plain and simple, do you want to be free? I don't need to know none of your business. Because they didn't need to know the lame man's business that was sitting by the pool of Bethesda when they said, do you want to be made whole? So for her, it was, do you want to be free? The girl said, yes. Now, I know what I had downloaded, and I know what I was seeing. I from Holy Ghost headquarters, but it wasn't for me to share. It was for me to meet the need that she had. There's a difference in sharing and meeting a need versus none of that matters. You have a need right here and right now that we need to address. Her need was, do you want to be free? She said, yes. I said, we're going to pray because God is able. Period, point blank. All he needed was a yes. A yes. That's all he needed. So in that time of talking to her and us praying, when the prayers were done, I said, now every single time the enemy comes back and says that you're not free, or he says you need to do this or you need to do that, you say, devil, you're a liar because I'm free. Now, who's to say later on down the line, our roads may not intersect, and I don't share my story then. But sometimes it's not meant, how you said, like, how did the story get out sometimes? Sometimes it's not meant for the story to get out, I think, because that person isn't mentally mature enough to handle it, or spiritually mature enough. Sometimes in church we experience things, and we want to tell our brothers and sisters, but they're not where we at that point in time. So I can't even share with you something that I'm going through in the church, because since you're not able to understand, that's a part of being called and qualified, because God doesn't just qualify, He gives you discernment, and He gives you wisdom, and He gives you knowledge and understanding, and teaches you, instructs you on how to do stuff and how to move and maneuver in certain things. That's a part of those qualifications that He places in us. So if there's something going on, or I'm experiencing something, whether it's at church or on the job or wherever, it's in our day-to-day lives, I might not be able to even share that with my brother or with my sister, because they may not have went through some of the qualifications for them to even understand what I'm going through. And I think that's sometimes also what we have to remember, that although God has qualified all of us, because the word doesn't say, oh, you're qualified if you went through this. It says that He predestined, and those who He called, He also qualified. The requirement is to be living for Him and to serve Him. That's the requirement in order for the qualification to come forth. So I hope you guys are getting just the gist of what I'm saying, that sometimes we also have to use wisdom in your qualifications.
I want to round it out with this question of, so we talked about this calling and how God qualifies a call. I want to kind of round it out with, what do you say to the people who are coming into the church for the first time? Like, God, you blessed a person like that. Wow. How? How do I get there? What do I do? What do I need to do to get myself into position and my call? We are all called, we know that. But I think for somebody who's watching us and they're wondering, first time entering church, how do I get to my place of call? How do I walk into it?
So isn't there a statement in your called if you're a child?
There is a statement in the Bible that says that. Okay.
No.
I would say to the person on the other side of the camera, getting there is a matter of relationship. Like she said, we've already been called, and the Bible talks about, Amber touched on it, who God foreknew, he predestined, who he predestined, he basically called, he qualified, so on and so forth. So literally before the foundations of the world, God has already had you in mind to be whoever he's called you to be. It is a matter of relationship and getting to know your position and who you are in Christ to be able to carry out what he's called you to carry out. And to know, the Bible talks about in Genesis, and this is what be messing me up, how he talks about the seed inside of itself. So literally having the Spirit of the living God, and as you begin to pray and you receive the Holy Ghost, you literally have inside of you everything you need. But it's that surrendering and saying yes, and then allowing God to work that yes out through you. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm gonna shut up on that.
And I will also say to the person on the other side of the camera that regardless to what it looks like and what you go through, don't give up. If you have pain in your body, do you stop walking? If you're having difficulty breathing, do you just stop breathing? You continuously fight to breathe. When your body is hurting, if your leg is hurting, you don't stop walking. You just try to, you do what you can, but you're going to still walk.
So walk it out. Yes, walk it out. Walk out your own salvation with fear and trembling, and walk with us on this journey together, because this is where all walks of life intersect and leads to the kingdom. I just got excited about that ending part, because we don't stop walking. We don't stop on this journey. We keep moving forward. We keep pressing, and the power of community is important. So if you haven't joined the community, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us either on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, because this is a journey and we are walking it out together. We want to thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Jonah's Anonymous here on the Journey Podcast. Listen, if you're running from the Lord, now is the time to stop running, okay? We all have a call that we need to answer. Hello? We all have a call we need to answer to. And listen, it takes surrenderance.